Many places deserve not just a second visit, I think a second, third, fourth, or even a fifth visit.
I found out many secret izakayas. Izakayas are basically Japanese restaurants.
It was the first time I actually climbed to the roof of Galleria Fair.
You realize that if you go to the basement floor of all of these electronic stores, there are arcade games, like Super Mario, Pac-Man and all of that you can really play out there.
So you don't ever have enough time to see everything or do everything.
We weren't sure whether the cab driver is overcharging us or not overcharging us.
Enjoy 4 seasons in Kashmir. You haven't done it till you've gone and seen 4 seasons in Kashmir.
Campervan trip was a completely different perspective.
In winter when I went, I could actually see the glacier for the first time properly.
Yeah. It was a super budget friendly trip.
And the next time when we visit the place again, we are like a guide.
So imagine this, you've gone to a new place, you've gone to a place for the first time. It could be a place near your hometown, it could be a place anywhere in India, or it could be a place anywhere in the world. Well, for the purposes of this discussion, let me start with Paris. It's your first time in Paris. Maybe you have a day or two out there. What do? You're scrambling, you're running to complete the Eiffel Tower, the third level of the Eiffel Tower. You want to do a river cruise on the river Seine. You want to go check out the Eiffel Tower from different neighborhoods in Paris. You want to enjoy a croissant at a famous Parisian cafe. You want to go check out a famous French cabaret show. All of these things you're trying to scramble into 1 day, 2 days. And that's how first visits feel to most destinations. Today we are going to talk about not the first visit, but we are going to talk about second visits. Imagine going back to Paris. This time you know about the place, you have seen the Eiffel Tower, you have had a croissant at a Parisian cafe. All of these things have been done. Now you are a temporary local. So yes, we are going to talk about second visits on our travel podcast, Where to Next, with Sunila and me, Neil. So Sunila, as we get into this episode, second visits is a theme. Very interesting theme. Let me start by asking you, why did we choose this theme and what makes second visits an interesting thing?
Neil, yeah, it's a really interesting topic. And I think, why we chose this, because many places deserve not just a second visit, I think a second, third, fourth, or even a fifth visit. Some places we fall in love and we want to go there again and again. And I realized that sometimes there are a lot of factors in that. Maybe you've been somewhere, your family hasn't. Maybe you are doing different things there. You went there once for a business trip, you went there once with friends, you are going there again with your family. Things change, the destination changes. So many things have happened, many destinations have evolved over time. We have changed as people. So there's always a reason to go back. There's always something new to see. And honestly, it's impossible to see everything in one visit, right? Yeah, so it makes sense to do that. And I kind of, sometimes we feel, why go again? I've seen this place. But I realized this. I was planning my own personal trip. And I'm going with Sarah now. I'm going to London and I'm doing Austria, Tyrol and Vienna. So when I asked her, okay, because she hasn't had a holiday for a very long time, she's been studying. So I said, choose where you want to go. And she said, I want to go to Prague and Vienna. I said, Sarah, I just went there 3 years back. And, she just shot this answer back at me and she retorted saying, you've practically been everywhere and that isn't my fault. And I have never been there. So, and that made me think of it, it's a holiday for her. I should choose where she wants to go. And I'm really looking forward to it now, discovering it all over again.
So it's going to be a second visit for you, but a first visit for her.
Yes.
Awesome. I'm glad you said that, because the way I thought of doing this episode was not just discussing destinations, because over the course of the discussion, different destinations will come up, and I would love it if you really throw different types of examples in. Now, let's talk about second visits, right? I think the first time you go to a place, you mentioned that, you kind of don't get to do everything, but you do certain things that are a tip of the iceberg. Now, I spoke about Paris. Did you ever get a feeling when you first went to a destination where you were rushing, and when you were leaving, you felt like, okay, I need to come back here again? See, you've done that a lot of times, but when was it that you got this feeling the first time?
You know, it's funny, but Neil, I get this feeling every time I travel, wherever I go, because my bucket list of things to do just doesn't end. So every trip, I'm on the last day, I feel like if I had only one more day, I'd probably do this, and it's never enough. So I kind of feel this everywhere. In fact, recently I went to a wellness retreat in Maharashtra. It's called Dharana at the Shilim. And on the last day, I was with my Italian friend Lydia, and both of us are sitting there. We did a very short three-nighter introduction kind of a program. And on the last day, we were feeling so rejuvenated, so excited that we said, no, we don't want to go back. I wish this would not end. And we decided we'll come back again at some point later in life. So I think every place you kind of feel that, because you mentioned Paris, and recently I went to Paris last year. And of course, I've been to Paris many times before. But when I went this time, it was the first time, you know, Galerie Lafayette, the shopping mall, was the first time I actually climbed to the roof of Galerie Lafayette. Because usually you just go in, you spend time shopping, and you come out. But one secret is one of the best sunsets in Paris is on top of Galerie Lafayette.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and there is like a wine bar, and there are restaurants, so you can enjoy a drink too. So have a really nice, you know, champagne or something by the sunset. It's the perfect place to go. So I realized when I went there, you get a beautiful rooftop view of Paris. So yeah, those are some things that you discover. I was walking in the Marais region, completely different vibe, and you discover so many small hidden things that you've not seen before.
I think so. These things you're saying that you may not be able to do on your first visit, or you're not local enough to really understand that, right? Like, would you say that?
Yeah, of course, you know, because probably on the first visit, think of it like getting to know a person, right? When you're just introduced to someone, you're not going to ask them, what did you do in your school and where were you? Probably, like, you know, a few questions. You just know the person's name, whatever. It's the same with destinations. And, you know, more often than not, very rarely do we just go to one place at a time. You're at least combining two, three, if not 10 countries in that one trip that you go to, right? So you don't ever have enough time to see everything or do everything. And also, what happens is the first time you go, I think you realize what you like, and the second time you go, you actually start to enjoy it better. Like I remember, I think I went to London the first time in 1999, I guess. And from even how do you use a pass? You know, simple things like when you want to go to a bus, do I pay cash? Can I use a card? How do I do it? What do I do it? These are all questions that come to mind. You want to use the metro? How do you get the metro card? Where do you go? Where are the train stations? So there's a lot of learning the first time. And the second time is pure enjoyment.
Yeah, I quite agree, because I had the same feeling when I went to Japan, right? The first time I went to Japan was 2016. And if you really look at Tokyo, the largest metropolis in the world, Tokyo is built as neighborhoods. So there is the famous Shibuya crossing that we all saw in the movie Tokyo Drift, and it is the busiest crossing in the world. There is
must do item for the first time.
Everyone wants to do that, right? So I did Shibuya, I did Shinjuku, which is the neon lit capital of Tokyo, is what they call it. There you can see a Godzilla coming out of a building. You can go to a place called the batting cages, which is like, you know, it's like cricket nets but for baseball, and baseball is quite popular in Japan. So I did that. I went to Akihabara, which is known as the electronics district of Japan. Then I also got a chance to go to Omate Sando, which is the shopping district of Japan. Now, on my first visit, all of the guides that I had read, all of the videos that I had seen, told me that you have to go to all of these neighborhoods. So I ticked them all off, and then I was back. And of course, when I was coming back, I had that feeling that, okay, like I really should come back to Tokyo. The second time I went, I made it a point that I went to the same neighborhoods. But this time when I went to Shibuya, I wasn't that interested in going to the Starbucks and clicking a photo of that crossing. But actually, I found out many secret izakayas. Izakayas are basically Japanese restaurants which serve food that is cooked on skewers. And like the Japanese, after work, they like coming here, chilling, having some sake, and having these skewers. So I discovered all of these izakayas in the bylanes of Shibuya neighborhood. Then there is Shinjuku. Now, Shinjuku is, of course, famous for its neon lit buildings and skyscrapers and all of that. But I found a street which is known as the Bar Street, where you just have small bars with maybe 6 to 8 chairs, and that's it. And there are hundreds of these bars. You just keep walking through them and you notice them. I went to Akihabara, which I mentioned as the electronics capital. But then you realize that if you go to the basement floor of all of these electronic stores, there are arcade games, like Super Mario, Pac-Man, and all of that that you can really play out there. You went to Omate Sando, of course, there are the Louis Vuittons, the Gucci showrooms, the great Apple store there. But you go into the bylanes, you'll find the best street food, you'll find the best artisans. I found like this one bag that I bought, a backpack, and that was something that I used for many, many years. That was Japan for me, right? Like I went to the same places again and discovered completely new things. So I feel second visits don't only have to be about going to that same place and ticking off newer things, but it can be going to the same place again and discovering something new in that Eiffel Tower area, right? Now, that's one way of looking at it, where you go to the same place in a city and find something new. But another way of looking at it is going to that same city, but that second visit could be during a different season. Now, through all of the travels that you have done in this world, like give us an example where you've gone to a place a second time, probably during a different season, and I just want to know how you felt.
Very good point, Neil, because the season can really decide how you feel about the place. Sometimes you love the place because of the season. Sometimes you feel like, oh, it's not that great, but it's actually maybe the weather. So it's always good to give a place a second chance and enjoy it better. For example, I was in Scandinavia, in Norway, and Finland. I was there during the midnight sun, and in Finland, Scandinavia, all across Scandinavia actually, during the midnight sun, they have festivities. The sun doesn't set.
And the midnight sun is what period?
Around 21st June is generally the summer solstice. So the midnight sun would extend from, say, June, July to mid-August or something like that. And then once you cross the Arctic Circle, you go up, you go to the north, the sun doesn't set. And it feels unreal, surreal that at 2 a.m. in the night, you still have the sun up there. You have daylight. You feel tremendous energy because the sun is out there, and then before you know it, it's 10 or 11. When you start yawning, you wonder, why am I yawning? It's still daylight, and then it was 11 the night or even the midnight. And that was a completely different experience with people out in the fields. People are hiking, walking, they are, you can go boating. So we actually went boating, we enjoyed islands. I did all of that. And yeah, like they do this summer solstice where they have this huge poles and they decorate the poles, they have festivities around it. And then, I went to Norway again, and this was around March to Lofoten Islands. So I was in Lofoten, I was in the north, and I've also been, to Finland in the north. And you have also been to Finland in winter. And winter is a completely different landscape. For one, the place looks very different. Sometimes you have to think, is this the same place?
Yeah.
Because it's just covered in snow. It's white, it's beautiful, it's stunning, and I mean summer is equally stunning too. So sometimes it's very difficult to decide which place do you like when, in which weather. And in winter, the sun doesn't rise in a way, right? Maybe you don't see the sun at all. You see it for 1 or 2 hours, 2-3 hours, but it's not pitch black. There's this beautiful, I don't know, like a dark blue color in the sky, or gray or dark. It's equally stunning because the snow is reflecting, really shining brightly. And then you can do snowmobiling, you can do snowshoeing, you can do a reindeer sled, you can do a husky sled, which is impossible to do in summer. And then of course aurora and the aurora borealis and the northern lights, you have good chance to see that if you go there in the summer. So Scandinavia, I think, is a perfect example of visiting the same place twice, and I think most people do it. We also offer our tours like that because the place just completely changes. It's like going to two different places. So I think it's the best example. Now, you spoke of Japan a lot. Japan itself, Neil, all through the year changes its face, right? Yeah. You go during springtime, you have the famous cherry blossoms, but I love autumn better, I think. And I went to South Korea during autumn, and we went to Nami Island. And the colors, the deep reds, the oranges, the browns that you see during autumn are just stunning. I think we spent one whole day just doing photography because we just enjoying and just lying in the park and enjoying the trees. So a lot of these places will offer you different things to do during different seasons, and you get to see that, right? You do the same thing in Canada and the US on the east coast especially. Again, you have the autumn and the spring and the summer. So Washington DC gets its own cherry blossoms, but during autumn it's a completely different scene. And our own Kashmir, like they always
I was
say,
just going to come to that.
enjoy 4 seasons in Kashmir. You haven't done it till you've gone and seen 4 seasons in Kashmir. So every place changes. And you know, another factor to all of this is if you go down to the southern hemisphere, then you have the seasons reversed.
Yeah,
So if you are missing the snow in peak of summer in June, July, August, go to Australia
Yeah.
and go to Mount Buller and enjoy the snow there. You know, if you want sunshine during winter and you want the sun, then go to Queensland. Go to it during December, Jan, February, and you have the sun all there for you. So I think it's a very good point. Going back again and again and discovering the same place during different seasons, it's like doing two completely different trips.
That's awesome. You know, as you were telling me about all of these places, I was just like processing and I was building a rapid fire thing that I'm going to ask you mid episode, right? Okay.
Okay.
We are talking about second visits, right? But you mentioned Scandinavian countries, you mentioned Japan, you mentioned Kashmir, you mentioned, let's say, Australia. Now, we are talking about second visits, but let's say, would you say go to Norway during the midnight sun or the northern lights? So, this is going to be my rapid fire quick one. So, if I'm visiting Norway, should it be during the midnight sun or should it be for the northern lights the first time that I'm going?
Midnight sun first.
Okay, Japan. It's a tough one. Autumn colors, you would say?
Always autumn. For
I mean, many viewers
personally,
watching
I would
this.
say autumn.
Yeah.
It's my answer. So autumn.
I would also say autumn because many viewers watching this would be like, okay, cherry blossom is what everyone says.
You know, yes, cherry blossoms are there, but nature is transient and things are changing across. I've seen many people go for cherry blossom. I want to go and see the cherry blossom. And just in that year, if the summer is a little delayed, you may just miss it by a day, by a week or so. And then if you're going to Japan for a week, there's a good chance that you don't see or you don't imagine. We go with all these ideas in our head. We have these images in our mind that we see with Google and everything. A lot of them are filtered. A lot of them are taken during the peak of the cherry blossom season. If your timing doesn't really coincide, you may be a little disappointed. So I would say if you're going for cherry blossoms, try and cover more distance in Japan. Go from north to south. You know, plan your itinerary properly. But with autumn, you're never disappointed because there's something somewhere all the time, and it is really beautiful. It's a stunning time to go. So
Fair
autumn
enough.
for me.
Kashmir, which of the 4 seasons?
All four.
Still pick one.
It's tough, Neil. All four. Okay, now I would say with the new tulip gardens there, spring.
Spring. And spring is what month?
So April, around April or May, if you go in, you'll get to see the tulip gardens in Kashmir.
You mentioned Australia. What season?
Okay, that is really tough. But I personally like May, June.
Okay.
Because it's kind of cool. It again depends. Australia is a big country. It's a continent. So it depends on where you're going. If you want to go and enjoy the water, you want to enjoy Queensland and the beaches, then I would say summer, December, January. But if you want to be in the cities like Melbourne, I kind of enjoyed it in winter.
Yeah.
So May, June is a perfect time to be there because everything's very cozy and it felt great.
Awesome. So 4 destinations done. One final destination was everyone's favorite, Switzerland. During the summer, that is India's summer, that is April, May, June, or Switzerland during the months of the Christmas markets, November, December, and Jan.
I would say Christmas markets
And
and
why?
winter.
And why?
So I was at Jungfrau, and speaking of second visits, I think I've gone to Jungfrau more than 10 times. I happened to be there in December, and I think that was the best that I enjoyed Jungfrau. Jungfrau, you're on top of Europe at 11,333
Jungfrau
feet.
York.
Jungfrau York, the mountain. And Neil, in summer when you go, it is filled with tourists. In winter when I went, I could actually see the glacier for the first time properly.
Yeah.
And you know, contrary to belief, like people think it's going to be, it is cold, but the sun really shines brightly and it doesn't feel that cold. Like sometimes you have to keep checking the temperature. Is it really that cold? And of course, you dress properly. So for me, winter was very, very, very special, and I loved it. Like there are all these. You don't get to do snowshoeing in Mumbai, so
That's true.
I love the Switzerland winter. For that, you get to do all these things that you don't think of doing here, right? I mean, summer we have summer all year round, but winter is something we don't get to enjoy. And with Switzerland, you have cable cars that take you up everywhere.
Yeah.
Ease of travel is great. In fact, if you go in winter, Neil, the Glacier Express is best seen in winter, because I've done it in summer as well, but I'm dying to go and see it in winter, and I hope I can do that, because see the images of that. It's just stunning. So I think as someone from Mumbai, to be able to do all of these things and in a place like Switzerland is for me it's winter.
I'm actually glad we did this rapid fire because generally a first time for a traveler to Japan would be the cherry blossoms.
Yeah.
Generally a first time for a traveler to Switzerland would be during the Indian summer. And by just not picking the time of the year, but the passionate way in which you explain, it has kind of fueled our episode theme of second visits, where, you know, if anyone's been there, they have ideas to go there a second time. Now, the first section of our podcast, of course, I discussed of going to the same place, to the same sightseeing place again. Now we discussed going during different seasons. A third question I had that I wanted to discuss with you was going to a place when you're at a different stage in life, right? Because I think the perfect example of this is that people going to Thailand when they are youngsters, when they are a married couple, when they have kids, and when they are retired. You see all four sections of such kinds of people on any flight that you take to Thailand, whether it's to Bangkok, whether it's to Phuket, whether it's to Krabi also. Now we have direct flights there. But how does a place like, let's take Thailand for that matter, because you've been there multiple times, I was there a couple of weeks ago. How does a place like Thailand appeal to all of these types of travelers and still offer something unique to them? Because some of them on that flight will have gone with friends first, then they go with their spouse, then they go with their children, then they go when they're retired. So throw
We've
some light.
taken family holidays to Thailand. We've started off from there. I think when you go with the family, the itinerary is completely different. You'll spend a whole day at Safari World. You will spend a whole day in the water parks. You will go to Pattaya and be on the beach for all day. Like typically a first time travel would be Bangkok and Pattaya, right? So parasailing, water sports. If doing nothing, just building sandcastles in the beach. The water in Thailand, in all the islands, is so beautiful that you go to Phuket and you can just be on the beaches all day. You can take a yacht and go and do snorkeling, do other things. So I think for the first time, and I realized that when Sarah was very young, because the first question she asked me is, I hope there's a pool. And I realized water is so important for children. Having a swimming pool is so important. So I think that makes it feel like a perfect holiday. So Thailand for the first time, or as a family when you go, it's mainly the theme parks, it's mainly the beaches, it's mainly all these water sports that you would add. You've done that once when you're going there, or when you evolve, or you're going with your friends. You'll probably not even go to Safari World. It won't even feature in your, the second time that you're going. It will not feature in your itinerary. But maybe you could have a sundowner yacht in Phuket with some champagne or whatever, or just go snorkeling, or do multiple islands and do diving or scuba diving and explore the more adventurous part of it. So shopping could be a part of it. Wellness, in fact, in Thailand has some amazing wellness resorts, or even just foot massage and other wellness activities that you do all day. So that completely changes. Probably what I would love to do with my friends is do a Thai cooking class the next time I go in, and go to the market, learn everything about the how Thai food is made, because we all love Thai food. If you can learn how to make it, that makes a perfect holiday. So I think experiences change quite a lot. Probably even in terms of the hotel you would suggest or you would book will also change. When you're going with your family, you want to be maybe as close to the beach as possible on the islands. When you're with friends, you probably want to be in the city as close as possible, so you can walk to the restaurants, cafes, and rooftop bars and other things in the evening. Different musical shows, events that you would choose. So a lot changes according to what you do. I think it's not just the same place. This would be if you're going to the same place again and again, but even where you go in Thailand changes. So if I'm going with my friends, I'll probably go to Chiang Mai and Chiang Rai in the north and discover a completely different Thailand and not even go to the beach. You know, it's okay. I've been there two, three times. For the fourth time, I can go to the north and see the mountains and see a completely different side of Thailand. So, where you go, what you do, and how you choose changes in different, ages of life. I think you've also experienced that. You've been to Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Singapore, and other places as a, as a child and then as youth and now with your family. So, what do you think of it?
Yeah, I would completely agree because the more familiar you get with a destination, your perspective on it changes. At the start of the episode, I mentioned that you become a temporary local there. So let's take Dubai, Abu Dhabi, for example. If I were to go alone, and generally, if I'm going alone to Dubai, it's probably for work, going for one of these conferences, right? In the evenings, I would go to a place like Top Golf and just play golf over there, like at the driving range that they have at Top Golf. But now, if I were to go with Heta, and this has happened, right? Heta and I have been to Abu Dhabi and Dubai, then Top Golf is not a priority. Heta likes Formula One, I love Formula One, so we would want to go to the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Or generally, most of our visits to Dubai are taking a hotel right next to Dubai Mall and just ensuring that we do our annual shopping out there, because nowadays, given work life and everything, it becomes difficult to shop here where we are staying. So that's why the annual shopping happens there. With Raya, I think UAE was one of the first countries that Raya ticked off her bucket list. She still hasn't been to Abu Dhabi, but she has been to Dubai. And with Raya, that completely changes. You're not talking about Formula One, that can be too noisy. You're not talking about leaving the hotel at 10 a.m., going on a shopping spree, and coming back at 8 p.m. Suddenly, it becomes about figuring out feed times, figuring out nap times for Raya, ensuring that the place is not too noisy, not no overstimulation happens. So suddenly Dubai completely changes. Now, something that I'm looking forward to for my next visit to UAE is taking Raya to SeaWorld. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, there's SeaWorld, there are many other theme parks that he'll probably
Yas
enjoy.
Island
Yeah,
itself,
Yas
you can
Island.
just stay there and be
Yeah.
that, right? I mean, the next time you go to Singapore, you'll probably stay in Sentosa or
Yeah.
Universal rather than the city. And Neil, we mentioned us changing over time, as at different life stages. But you mentioned Dubai, you mentioned Abu Dhabi, and I mentioned Singapore. And I feel certain places also change so much. Someone who's been to Dubai 10 years back and who's going now, there are so many new things to experience. Someone who's been to Singapore before and who's going now, again, there are so many things. So it's like if you've been there 5, 6 years ago, probably you've not even seen the jewel at
Yeah.
the Singapore airport, and you went there once just to go to the airport and come back. You can make an entire itinerary in Singapore just at the airport.
Yeah.
So many new destinations, so many attractions come up which we have missed on the last trip. So a second visit, I feel, is a must to really enjoy the place.
I think I remember sitting down with one of the heads of Dubai tourism once, and I was asking him that, okay, like, what's the final goal? He's like, we want to make Dubai in such a way that you visit every single quarter and you have something new that you can see over there or you can witness out there. Like, for example, someone who's been to Dubai Mall right now and has seen the fountain show, if they go now, you'll realize that the fountain is closed for renovation, which means they are renovating it, revamping it, and they are just wanting to attract you again for a second visit. So I guess places change. Think about Bangkok, right? When we went for the first time to Bangkok, the guide used to tell us, used to point to a super tall building which looked like a pencil and call it the Sky Bayok, right? And that at that time, that was the tallest hotel in the world, right? Today, when you go to Thailand, today when you go to Bangkok, the guide does not even mention the hotel that is the Sky Bayok. Today, the guide will mention the fact that Bangkok has the most restaurants on the world's top 50 restaurant guide list. Bangkok has the most or the best bars that exist. Bangkok has probably more shopping malls than um, anywhere. Bangkok probably has the most night markets. So I guess destinations evolve, but because you have become so familiar with the destination, you don't feel lost. Like sometimes when you go to a new destination, you are completely new. Like even today, like I can tell you that the first time I went to Beijing, right? It was with my brother Raj and my cousins Rajasi and Arjun. In spite of having traveled all across the world, we were in Beijing, we were at the airport, and we were trying to hail a cab. We weren't sure whether the cab driver is overcharging us or not overcharging us. And that moment of uncertainty kind of makes you nervous. But suddenly, the second time I'll go to Beijing, this is not going to happen because I know how to get to the city. I know what is going to happen, how I'm going to feel, and all of that. So, psychologically, also a second visit makes it easier, right? Like, and it's not only international or Indian destinations. Even when I go for a trek to, say, Lohargarh Fort close to Mumbai, I've been there a couple
You
of
know the
times. You have done
terrain,
that.
you know the place.
Exactly. So you're more familiar. So yeah, those are some of the things that kind of came to my mind when you mentioned um, the fact that destinations change and destinations are changing all across the world. So Sunila, we've discussed second visits to a destination from different lenses and all of that, but I'm sure there is still more to discuss. So where to next?
Neil, I think when we go to a place, we become, and the next time when we visit that place again, we are like a guide,
Yeah.
for everyone else who's probably visiting for the first time. So, for example, I know that when I go to Prague now with Sarah, she's going to have a nice time and she's going to have a taste of the street food because what I'm going to make her try is the chimney cones, which
Okay.
are seen all across Central Europe. So that's something a delicacy that you must try. But there's also a lesser known delicacy, and that is called a kolache, which you see
Okay.
in the Czech. And it's a Czech pastry, and there's small shops and patisseries that sell that. So if you don't have that experience for the first time, then you kind of miss it. But one thing that comes to me is, in spite of thinking that we know it, we've gone there the first time, things can take us by surprise. And the second time you go, you have a experience that's so contrasting to the first time, so very different that it's like a first time all over again.
Yeah.
And I think you had that experience when you were down in New Zealand when we were speaking. You
Oh, my
mentioned
great
about it,
camper
right?
van trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us all about that.
I mean, if we are looking at it from a second visit perspective, let me tell you about my first visit to New Zealand. My first visit to New Zealand was flying all the way. Often it's thought of like, you have to take long flights and all of that. That I think is a myth because it's easy to get there. Going to Auckland, doing North Island, doing South Island, in South Island, doing Queenstown, waiting for the weather to be good and trying to go and do skydiving, then doing the bungee, doing fun things like that. But this was all done over a 7 or 8 day period, which meant that I was going from one city to another, spending not more than 2 nights at every city, and it just felt like a breeze. But of course, when I took that flight out from Christchurch, it was like, okay, I want to come here again, right? So the second time I went to New Zealand, me and my friends decided that, okay, let's do it in a way that we have never done before. And something that we found out was that none of us had taken a camper van trip. A camper van is that camper van that we saw Shah Rukh Khan drive in Swades, right?
You also call it an RV.
An
Same thing.
RV or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that, right? I'll call it a camper van. Now, the fun started with picking the right camper van because if you just go to a website and be like, okay, I want a camper van for 4 people and book it, you might be in for a surprise because a camper van for 4 people can be a super small one or a super large one, right? And we have seen Shah Rukh Khan drive it because he takes that camper van in Swades to the village and he uses the toilet and all of that. But be mindful that traveling with 4 people in a camper van means that you are in a confined space 24/7 together. You have small beds that you have to sleep on. The toilet is something that you kind of have to clean. The toilet gets blocked, it is something totally different. So that camper van trip was a completely different perspective. And it meant me knowing or not knowing beforehand, but finding out on the trip that everywhere in New Zealand, there are camper van grounds. So basically, you have to electric charge the camper van so that the lights function through the day, the water heats up, and all of that. So every evening, you have to go to a camping ground, you have to book a slot and do it. One of the mistakes I made during that trip was that I was like, okay, I'll book a camper van ground for tonight. And on reaching that camper van ground, I realized that I'd booked it for the 17th of May instead of the 17th of April. And because of that, we couldn't plug in the socket or get electricity for a camper van for a full day, which meant we had cold water. It was already cold in New Zealand, so that was a fun trip. But we ended up doing so many things on that trip which we wouldn't have done otherwise, right? And that was basically because we were in this camper van, all our luggage was with us, everything was handy, and we could stop wherever we wanted. We could do whatever we wanted to do, and we did not have this thing that, okay, our next hotel is in this city, 2 hours away, we have to get there. We could just find a camper van ground, go online, book that camper van ground for the night, and just do it. So that was a completely different perspective. And the second perspective, similar to how I had done New Zealand, was when I went to Vietnam for the second time. The first time was just touching Hanoi and coming back. But the second time I decided that I'm going to spend 16 days here. I'm going to go backpacking and I'm going to stay in dormitories all across Vietnam. It was a super budget friendly trip. Will I do it again? Probably never. Would I recommend someone to do that trip? Depends what life stage you are at, because it's a very different thing where literally every night you're meeting new people. By the 16th day, I was kind of bored of asking people, hey, how are you? What do you do? Right? Because you're meeting people from different nationalities. But that was a kind of different trip. And something similar like this I have on my bucket list, and I had written an article in the Indian Express about this, where I want to do Japan, but I want to do one trip to Japan where I am living out on food and drink from the konbinis, which are the convenience stores, that is 7-Eleven and the likes of that, because the food you get there, the drinks you get there are insane. And I think you can do it, but that is a challenge that I want to kind of take. So, yeah.
No, it sounds so interesting, and you're right. Like, you've seen maybe two contrasting sides of the same country, and then it's a completely different visit. And I think that just advocates second visits, if not third or fourth.
Yeah.
And when we think of that, Neil, one important aspect, and I think that's the next segment that we wanted to discuss today, is that going to a place again and again is of course easier if you have a long term visa.
Oh, yeah?
A long duration visa, right?
Yeah.
So, like, many times I see people applying for a UK visa, and I'm like, at least take a 2 year visa, if not a 5 year. Because once you go, you will want to go back. You've done London, you want to do Manchester, you want to do Scotland, you want to do the Lake District, you want to go and see all these different places. So having a long duration visa always helps. And the US visa, now, of course, right now the appointments are quite far off, but I would say even take that appointment now, because so many people are traveling to the US because they have a 10-year visa with them, and that just makes life easy.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. What do you think of that?
But let's say let me flip that question and ask you, right? Like, if I were to have a long-term visa to the US, right? At the start, people visit New York, LA, San Francisco, Vegas, and all of that. But what should a second visit have? I remember my second visit. My second visit with mom was to a place called Cincinnati. It was to Rapid City to check out Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
And I don't think many people have been there. So I was happy that my second visit entailed that. But let's talk about mainstream, because going to Mount Rushmore should be probably your fifth or sixth visit most of the time. But yeah, what could it be?
Neil, so talking of the US, and I think the US is a great example of having a long duration visa, and that is what we were talking of right now. Probably the first time round, we just touch upon the main cities, the coastal cities, and sometimes I used to look at the map of the US and say, we are going on the East Coast, we are going on the West Coast, and we are missing this whole big country in the center, right?
It's massive.
It's huge. So again, it's like a continent in itself. So for the first time, New York, Niagara, Washington, DC, maybe Orlando, if you have children, of course, Orlando, Miami, maybe, and then go on to the West Coast with Vegas, Los Angeles and San Francisco. Now, this in itself is a long trip. So you could even break this into 2 trips, do only one coast at a time, and then do the second coast on the second trip. Many people have friends and relatives in the US, so you're probably going to go there again and again. Every time you go, pick a state, pick a part, and do that. And the thing we've missed about the US, we've always equated it to Europe, is natural beauty, national parks, snow and lakes and everything. But the US has so much of natural beauty. But we have only seen the cities. So the second time round, I would really, I would ask people that go in and see the national parks. Go in and see the natural beauty out there. So if you go to Utah, you go to Nevada, you have the Antelope Canyon, you have the Bryce Canyon. So you have all this nature's beauties, comes alive here. Zion National Park, the Yosemite and Yellowstone, two amazing national parks that you just can't miss. And they are so stunning. Everything in the US is huge, right? So, including the national park, including the dishes, the food is huge. Everything is just larger than life out there, just like the cities. But it's such a contrast from the cities that it's definitely something you should not miss. Now, the second time round, go to Chicago, do an architecture tour there. I mean, Chicago is so stunning. And by next year, we'll have the President Barack Obama Center coming up. So, again, a reason to go back to Chicago, even if you've been there before. So, things in the US are constantly changing. And we mentioned the weather, we mentioned seasons. Again, the US, even between the East Coast and West Coast, has slightly different temperatures and seasons. So, reason enough to go there again and again. The next time you go to the US, also add on things around it, right? Like the Bahamas. You go to Orlando and add on a Bahama trip from Fort Lauderdale or from Port Canaveral and do the cruise. It's a cruise. It's a cruise that I'm talking about. So these cruises leave from the East Coast, and then you can add on a Bahamas experience with your US trip. Do Hawaii. You can go in from Los Angeles, you can go in from the West Coast and enjoy the islands of Hawaii and come back. Mexico sits right below the US. So on your, I don't know, fourth, fifth, sixth trip maybe, add on Mexico or do Hawaii and Mexico together. So add on all these, this whole places around the US. With Alaska, you can do Canada as well. So there are different combinations that work out, and I honestly think with a 10-year US visa, you can have 10 different trips every year and still discover something new. New Orleans, New Orleans, Louisiana, the whole place. So Texas, so many different places to go to. So
and it's still a direct flight. So
it's still a direct
it's still
flight.
a direct flight. So I mean, the opportunities are endless. It's just that we have to forget the question or the statement that, oh, I've already been there. Exactly. And think of it that, yes, you have already been there, and that's the main reason why you should go there again, right? Like, yeah, I'm glad we chose this topic. Now, kind of to end the episode, at the start we discussed you're going to London soon. But what's another trip that is going to be a second visit that you have on your cards, apart from this trip with Sarah that you're planning over the course of the next 12 months that you're quite excited for?
Neil, actually, I'm going to stick to London here again because I know for sure that I'm going to go back there the next year. And, even with the trip this time, you have limited time, right? So I have things planned for this year. I've already booked a West End show. So I'm watching The Devil Wears Prada because I know it may not probably run for too long. So that is already done. But I already am planning what I would do next year when I go there, because in spite of having done so much, there is still so much in London that I have to do. So the last time I went to Notting Hill and I went to the antique market, which was amazing. And as a fan of the movie Notting Hill, you have to go to the Notting Hill bookstore. I bought a bag there. We looked at and it's really special. It feels very nice. So that was something completely different from what I'd done the year before. And now for the next year when I go, 2026, there are 2, 3 things on my mind. And it's actually discovering London by boat. Because that's something I've not really done other than the Thames cruise that you do. But, I love art. So the Tate gallery there, there are 2. You have the Tate Britain and you have the Tate Modern. Now you can of course go there by the tube and you can use the trains and the buses. But you can also reach these galleries by boat. So, and the best part is you can actually go from one Tate to the other Tate also by a boat.
Yeah, and there's Uber boat in London.
And Uber boats.
Yeah.
So I want to go on a Uber boat and go to these places. Secondly, I want to do kayaking from the Little Venice to Camden or the other way around.
Oh, wow.
So
I had not thought of that.
Yeah, you can actually walk the whole canal by the side of the canal. And I thought, the Thames River runs
Yeah,
all
why
through.
not?
You keep seeing it. So for my next trip to London, I already have this plan that I want to discover the city by boat, like go everywhere, stop, and do everything.
Awesome. Now, you know what I'm excited for as a second visit is our trip to Switzerland in December.
Yes.
That is going to be not my second visit, but probably my fourth or fifth visit to Switzerland, where we are going to do multiple destinations. I'm quite excited for that. But awesome,
And it'll
Sunila.
be
Yeah,
probably your first visit in winter to Switzerland,
it'll be my
or
second visit.
already your
Yeah,
second visit to
already.
winter. Right.
But yeah, like Switzerland during the winters is just insane. Like those Christmas markets, I think are amazing. I think on this episode we've given everyone reason enough to do a trip around the world, or even whether it's anywhere close by, but for a second time and not just the first time. So I guess life is about ticking countries, cities also, but at the same time discovering something new. You go to a place. So awesome, Sunila. I think a super fun episode of Where to Next. Viewers and listeners, I hope you liked this episode as well. We would love to hear from you. So let us know in the comments what you thought of this episode. Thank you for tuning in. And if you liked this episode, like, comment, and of course, subscribe to our channel. I'm Neil, that's Sunila. We are signing off from Where to Next. We'll see you on the next episode. Bye bye.
Bye bye.